Michael Carrick says him and Ole were simpatico and the team will play the same. They're going to do the same. They've just done that, got the manager sacked. Is that how you would address your... If you were advising Michael Carrick on his first day of press, it's like, I love Ollie, but we obviously need to change things up a little bit, you know? The results haven't been good enough and that's why the manager has left and that's why I'm here. So we've got to very quickly try and turn our season around.
Yeah, you've got to. That's what you should advise.
You're not distancing yourself too much from him, but you're distancing yourself just enough to say, I understand he got fired because the results are bad. Instead, look, you know, it's always difficult in the press conference. Maybe he did say all that, but he's also like, it's all going to be the same. You know, we got on very well. That's why things worked so well for a while.
Yeah,
they worked so well. He got fired.
You do have to admire the dedication to the bit, which is everybody worships at the altar of Ole, and it doesn't even matter if he's not the manager anymore. That Carrick coming out and saying, "Yeah, we're very similar. We'll play in a very similar way." It's clearly not a hopeful note, I'd imagine, for a lot of Manchester United fans. But it certainly shows a lot of dedication to that bit. Like Harry Maguire again coming out yesterday and saying that, you know, we let the manager down, we got him sacked. I would suspect that if things suddenly turn around for Manchester United over the next little while, Solskjaer will actually get a lot of credit. Like, you know, the way people laughed at pundits in England last year for saying, you know, Frank's got to take a lot of credit for the groundwork he laid at Chelsea. That Champions League trophy is his as much as Tommy Tuchel's. This will be the same situation this year with Solskjaer. Should they do anything, it's like you got to admire the groundwork he laid for this great explosion of success.
I've worked closely with Ollie for a long time. We have very similar beliefs. We did as players and we certainly do as coaches. Of course, I've got my own personality compared to Ollie, but of course, our style is very similar. That's why we worked together for so long and it went so well for a period of time. It did work so well for a period of time. Would you have said that there was a lot of personality about Michael Carrick? That would have been one of the things that I would have said. He doesn't really have... there was never his personality in the team.
No, he was a perfectly vanilla sort of midfielder who was very, very good.
I think... I've always maintained I think Michael Carrick was overrated by all the Man United fans, always, and to this day. I thought he was overrated then. I still think he's overrated now. I think he was surrounded by some of the best players in world football at the absolute peak of their powers.
Yeah.
And so he was a water carrier for the rest of the team.
But I think water carrier for the rest of the team is the key point there. That I think
But I think a lot of other people could have done that too.
Maybe. I think that can be sometimes underplayed. I mean, you look at their current water carriers, they can't really carry water.
Well, if they were carrying water for peak Ronaldo, peak Rooney, peak Van Nistelrooy, I think those water carriers in midfield would be totally fine.
Fair point, I guess. But
if they had Evra and Vidic and Ferdinand, would Fred and McTominay suddenly look so bad?
Maybe not. Maybe
I don't
not.
think so.
I would still think that we maybe conceded wood from the trees to a point here, and that Carrick would be an upgrade. Carrick would be an upgrade on McTominay or Fred.
Carrick might be an extra 2 or 3% on those players, but is he like Xavi? Oh, he's the English Xavi. He is not the English Xavi. He is not the English Iniesta.
Well, but
he is not in that conversation. Well, the Man United fans at the time, then and now, in retrospect, say, "Oh, Carrick, what a player! Oh, Jesus, he was so great."
I just think he was very, very good at being
Carrick,
doing the very basic things, which was so required.
Late stage scolds, even.
So would you throw Darren Fletcher into that same conversation as Michael Carrick?
Yeah, two grand players. Yeah. 2 grand players who were surrounded by much better. So John O'Shea. Like, John O'Shea obviously benefited from playing alongside really, really world-class players and had a brilliant career. Like, they had brilliant careers, but I don't think Michael Carrick... When did Carrick dominate a tournament? When was he the best player at a tournament? When did
Lampard or Gerrard do that? Like, I mean, Carrick, if you're going to talk tournaments, I mean, the fact that he was English probably diminishes his ability to dominate a tournament. There's a wider problem there. I just think the ability to be grand is underappreciated in that Manchester United team because they achieved so many great things.
No. Eoin, if I put you in the team with Evra and Vidic and Ferdinand and whatever, was it mostly Gary Neville who would have played with him? And then you've also got... like someone else in midfield to do a fair bit of running for you, and you've got Rooney and Ronaldo or Tevez and Van Nistelrooy or whoever it was, Luis Saha, like whatever collection of players are around you, your job is just to pass it sideways.
Yeah.
Not like.
I'm not saying it was calm.
I think he could have done it.
He was clearly like.
He was good at it. He was very good at that.
He would struggle to make the best 9 players in that starting 11 for sure on any given week.
The best 13 players on that starting 11
on the squad.
But the Man United players, the Man United fans will tell you that. Oh, he's a genius. Saw the game. He's a chess master. Oh, Gary Kasparov. It's like, okay, fair enough. Whatever. Take it outside. Do it in private. Whatever you want.
I guess we'll see now. I mean, if you're bringing a Kasparov level of innovation to the game, you're probably going to be able to implement it from the sideline as much as from pulling the strings in midfield. So you could be eating humble pie in a couple of weeks. This will prove him as a great midfield maestro, basically, is what you're saying.
Maybe he's got a brilliant football brain, and maybe that. Look, maybe they were right and I'm wrong. You know.
I'm eagerly awaiting the moment
we should
when
get
they
to
do
the tempting bit, the bit that's making all the Man United fans suddenly feel like maybe this isn't a complete shit show, is the fact that the rumours growing that Pochettino might ditch Paris Saint-Germain in the middle of the season because he's had that big row with Leonardo. Now, he seems to have had a row with Leonardo very early on in the whole process, and there was some talk Leonardo might be on his way out 3 or 4 months ago, but that didn't happen. And they do have the greatest collection of talent in the attacking third of the field that anybody's ever assembled. It hasn't quite morphed into a team just yet, but they still have loads of great players. And they're still in the Champions League, and they're still obviously probably going to win the league. So it's not a terrible job that Pochettino has, but maybe Pochettino is putting this out there to win the power battle at Paris Saint-Germain. That's one potential. Maybe he's putting it out there because it's true. Maybe he's about to leave to come to Man United in the middle of the season because he knows that the Man United job is a 3.5-year job. Everybody gets it for a lot longer than they deserve, and he probably deserves to get it for a long time. So it's like, will I stay at Paris Saint-Germain, where I will get sacked at some point in the next 12 months unless I win the Champions League? And even then, if I win the Champions League, I'll get sacked the next season for not winning the Champions League. And what's my next job going to be? I'm now at the point where I can manage the super clubs. Which of the Spanish super clubs are going to be available to me? Not a whole heap. There's a limited list because of my my past playing. I mean, that's stupid, but it seems to be a thing. Maybe the Madrid job isn't something he wants right now because he looks at the playing staff there. Although they played pretty well at the weekend, good to see how they get on in the Champions League over the next couple of weeks. So I don't know. The Man United job right now, I'll take it.
Yeah,
do it.
Yeah, like say if it doesn't go overly well. Like you are leaving yourself open to the criticism, not only of it not going well at Manchester United, but the fact that you walked out on Paris Saint-Germain. Now, I accept if it's a situation where he gets sacked and he becomes a free agent essentially and goes to Manchester United. There is definitely a part, I'm sure, of him thinking the optics of him walking out on this project wouldn't be great. I mean, like, where's your ambition as a manager? If you're managing Lionel Messi and you walk out on that project, granted, Ligue 1 is Ligue 1.
Well, if you walk out on it for a crap job, grand. But if you walk at it for Manchester United in crisis, your ambition is pretty high. Your ego is massive to the point where you're like, yeah, I can fix what Mourinho couldn't, what Solskjaer, club legend with like the most backing of any team in the history of football, what Van Gaal, one of the fathers of modern football, and well, David Moyes, he's okay, you know, but I'm going to beat all those and I'm going to win something for this team. And the next manager who wins the league for Manchester United has a job for 10 years. Like, pretty much. You're going to stay there for 10 years. And you can also start getting paid like the crazy money that Atletico Madrid pay.
Yeah, well, Pochettino's not going to be a Manchester United manager for 10 years. I think
if he wins a league title in the next 3 seasons, I guarantee he doesn't leave before 10 years. Because it's like, who else are you going to get, lads? Nobody.
Well, another manager will come along. I think Pochettino and Conte, you could make a case that they burn brightly for a while and they're extremely intense. And
you'd have said the same about Klopp, and here we are 6 years in.
Fair, yeah, that you could definitely have said that about him, but I think this is on a whole other level. I think that they burned so brightly with Spurs under Maurizio Pochettino, and things went south so quickly. It was actually incredible how it happened. Conte maybe to a lesser extent, and maybe there's a sense of them just kind of moving on to the next project. Does he even want a 10-year gig?
Somebody had suggested Diego Simeone yesterday, and I went to look at Simeone's. We were talking about great players who become great managers, and I was looking back to see what his managerial record was before he got to Atletico. Do you know this? Because I didn't know it, right? So pretty much from stopping playing, he went to Racing Club in Argentina for 4 months, from February 2006 to May 2006. He went to Estudiantes for 14 months, from May to December. Went to River Plate for 9 months. Went to San Lorenzo for a year. Went to Catania in Sicily. First time managing out of Argentina for 6 months to save them from relegation. Went back to Racing for 2 years, and then went to Atletico and has been there 10 years next month. So bounce, like real kind of I've got no attention span, and then this job's for me, job for life.
Yeah, like, I guess there is that sense that managers are always looking to couple up with somebody that they want to stay with forever, and they eventually find it and they want to do that. It helps that Simeone is the best paid manager in the world, and that kind of is a little bit of an incentive for him to stay for a bit longer. But I take your point, that is a good case study in someone who can go from this sort of bounce around to a really dedicated manager, and something that always feels fresh. Like in the situation of Klopp, for example, at no point did that ever feel stale throughout his entire... How many years is Klopp in charge of Liverpool now at this point? 7 years at this stage? Like at no point has it ever felt like it's gone stale, because winning is this really exciting thing, and then you stop winning for 1 or 2 seasons, then you win again, and there is kind of a state of flux once you get your first couple of trophies. It's until you get there that really things can start to feel like they're going stale. So maybe, as you say, if Pochettino does somehow win a Premier League title with Manchester United in the next 2 or 3 seasons, that is the thing that kickstarts solidity and will kickstart a long period.
It'll be hard to leave if you turn that into a successful club. It'll be very hard to leave, because there are no other jobs really in world football that are as interesting and as exciting, and like it's right up there. That's why they should be able to get the best managers. It's mad that they've got like a catalogue of mediocrity and busted flushes to take this job in the post-Ferguson era. The amount of money that's sloshing around that is available to the next manager is huge. Get the best one. Get like if Pochettino's head is being turned, you get on the plane, you bring him a Fabergé egg, you do whatever it takes, and you kidnap him. It's extraordinary rendition. You pay the money to PSG, who or you just get him to say it. I want the Man United job, and then PSG have to fire him.
Yeah.
Oh, that Man United job is the best job in world football. It's the Manchester United of jobs.
Well,
that's what he could say.
There you go. Yeah,
it's the Man United of jobs.
Every manager wants to manage Manchester United, and he could potentially pull a few strings. But I'm not.
First time ever that Kildare fans would know how the Paris Saint-Germain fans feel.
My concern, for this, if you're actually predicting this is going to happen, is not so much on him wanting to be Manchester United manager. It is him wanting to continue with Paris Saint-Germain. I just don't see the truly compelling reason for him to leave this project. The fact that it's been challenging, I would say, it's something that would keep someone like Mauricio Pochettino in the job and see this thing out. Like, I mean, you're going to quit. You're going to quit on Lionel Messi mid-season.
Yeah, because there's a possibility Messi quits. There's a non-zero chance that Messi forces his way out of Christmas to go back and join.
Well, if that's the reality, if you're Pochettino and you think that's going to happen, then of course that can push you out of the club. But under the assumption,
who's in charge? And Mbappe wants to leave. It's a shit show at Paris Saint-Germain. It's obviously a shit show at Man United, but it'd be his shit show. He would be the boss.
Well, but it kind of is at PSG as well. So they're going to win Ligue 1 this season, and it's like, look at this shit show, and I won a trophy.
Yeah.
In this absolute calamity.
In fairness, that the absence of a trophy on his CV seems to be something that
that's it. You can tick that box this season. Manchester United will get him for whatever.
I'm sorry, but winning the League Cup does not count. Like Mourinho, Zlatan's counting the League Cup as 1-2 trophies. Now he did win a Europa League.
But is there a chance that United just wait? Is there a chance that it's going to cost him 10 million quid to get Pochettino now? It will cost him 5 million quid at the end of the season.
Well, the amount of
you get your season, Poch.
You get your season, but then we might
or
not
do you
qualify
get your trophy
for the Champions
rather?
League. What if we don't qualify for the Champions League? Then Poch's like, I'm not coming now. You didn't know your side of the bargain.
Well, no. Like, I mean, if they don't qualify for the Champions League, then Poch can come in and he's taking a club from an even lower base, and he's like, I got you back into the Champions League, and it's a win-win. You've also then potentially got a situation where at the end of the season, maybe Ronaldo leaves Manchester United, and
perfect.
Of course, Mr. Pochettino has already said that Messi is the best player in the world this season. He says there's no question. He said it's difficult to change your view on whether Messi or Ronaldo is better, but Messi is the best in the world.
Before I worked with him, I didn't realise just how amazing he was, the impact he has on the young kids at training. You should see how Marcus Rashford looks up to him. This will change Rashford's life forever.
Like
Easily done.
It would be funny if Pochettino showed up at Old Trafford and was like, you know what, after working with Lionel Messi, he's kind of crap. You know, he's a stats patter.
Bad egg. Bad trainer.
Terrible human being. I'm like he's a shame on Argentina.
We need a sideline advising these managers what to say in their press utterances. It's 7:48. I'm going to tell you what's coming up between now and 10 o'clock. We'll come back to this, obviously, because the comments are rolling in. Look, let's not get sidetracked on Michael Carrick, right? I don't think he's great. You guys all think he's great. That's up to you. Your choice. You pay your money. Louise Galvin's going to join us at 8:05 to talk rugby. We've got sports pages at 8:25. We've got sports news at 8:45. Owen Murphy, Kilkenny Hurler at 8:50. Graham Hunter at 9:10 to knock a bit of sense into us. And then Monday Night Rugby at 9:30. OTB AM with Gillette, proud sponsors of Movember. Gentlemen, let's mow. I can't believe you clowns on Friday are still rating me 3 out of 3.
I got dumped for Adrian. I think it's like an ironic rankings.
That's it. I agree. Shifty Lad says, couldn't agree more with Ger about Carrick. Sideways and back, very overrated, but Jesus, don't say that around these Sky pundits. UZ says, I've got to agree with you on Carrick. He was well overrated as a player. Mark says, Carrick falls into the Dunphy quote of, was a good player, not a great player. I would agree. He's a good player, not a great player. Jack Reaper says, disagree on Carrick point. You don't keep your place in that United players only being able to pass sideways and backwards. Very underrated, Carrick. He is not underrated. He is like one of the most highly rated midfielders of his generation, despite the fact that there were actually world-class midfielders in his generation. Paul says, when did United fans say he was a genius? Can we at least start the argument at a half-truth? Who have they had in midfield that was better since? Anyone who's played with him said he was excellent.
See, I kind of agree with Paul there to a point. I don't think anybody did profess him to be a genius. I think there's just this great adoration because he's like one of us.
My point is,
he is mediocre like all of us.
He is so underrated that he is like one of the most overrated footballers. It's like, oh, this guy, nobody appreciates his excellence. Excellence. Like, yeah, okay. He was like a middle of the road passer, good engine, some game smarts, but like grand. He was grand. That's the point. Anyway, let's not get Carrick the player will have no impact on Carrick the manager. That's the point about this Steven Gerrard. Like, what's the latest thing Steven Gerrard has done? What do you think he's done? He's got to the training ground. What has he banned on?
Yeah, he has banned ketchup, which
mayonnaise.
Oh, he's banned mayonnaise as well.
And ketchup. Yeah,
like
fizzy drinks, because it's a high performance, high aspirational. They turned Rangers around, and they're going to do the same thing here.
Do you think there's like a black market for ketchup sachets at the moment that we could possibly get into? Nice little earner there on the side, meeting footballers around the back of the training lot, selling them little sachets, and I don't know. Gerrard genius is basically what you're saying.
Well, what happens
after one game?
What happens is, and John Jazz is always aware of this, is a new manager comes in and criticises the old regime subtly enough. It's like, oh, they didn't do this that I'm going to do. The team aren't fit enough. The medical staff wasn't good enough, whatever it is. And that's not what Gerrard's doing here. It's more subtle. It's, the dietitians, they weren't on it. They just didn't have that elite mindset that I have as a serial winner who, of course, didn't actually win a league title.
I'm all for that. Like, I'm sure Xavi has replaced the ketchup at Barcelona as well, but he's gone that one step further and was like, too many injuries at this club. Medical staff, you're all fired, and he brings over his entire medical team from Al Sadd.
Did he?
Which, I was just reading that this morning, which is quite the step. I mean, that is how you lay down a marker. That's how you. So if there's actual success in the near future for Barcelona, I think that's something you could point to and say, well, that was a pretty seismic change, rather than, I was going to say Arsene Wenger, small changes, but actually didn't he give his players like vitamin tablets and all that sort of stuff, or whatever they were, to completely overhaul the future of the club. And
it totally worked. Tonight, Villarreal against Manchester United, 5:45. Young Boys against Atalanta at 8 o'clock in that group. Chelsea against Juventus at 8 o'clock. Malmo against Zenit, also at 8 o'clock in that group as well. I think things are pretty straightforward for Chelsea at this point. Roman Abramovich is back in England after a long period of time where he wasn't travelling to England, but he's not going to the game tonight. He's got a do. Got a bit of a do on instead. So people ask him, what would the Keane thing look like? Could Keane manage Manchester United between now and the end of the season? Is it possible? What would it look like? How would it manifest itself? What would Harry Maguire's agent be, or sources close to Harry Maguire? What would they be leaking to the papers when it was announced? Because there's not going to be a 2 or 3 day warm up to this. It's just going to be like bang. Keane's going to arrive in one day and go, I'm back.
First game, they get smashed. Harry Maguire goes to Twitter to apologise, and he's like, "I'm sorry for absolutely nothing. I'm sorry because our manager's shite. I'm sorry, our manager's pathetic. He's got absolutely no experience. Where the hell has he managed?" And just proceeds to kick him until he's down after coming on for 2 minutes in a 2-0 defeat to Newcastle at Old Trafford. That's the sort of future we have. Like, I mean, it's a very, very entertaining fantasy to think about. Roy Keane at Manchester United right now. It would, if you were writing Dream Team, this is the sort of narrative you would write. You would indulge yourself to the point where it's ridiculous and would be entertaining, and everybody would be tuning in for the next episode. But like, I mean, what are you doing? Like, it's just so beyond the idea of being reasonable. This idea of Roy Keane there, that you can't allow yourself to think about it too long.
Was Gary Neville's time at Valencia so shit that he can't get it? Because is it? Was it?
Maybe Manchester United are so unaware of what that would do to maybe the image of the club, that there is this. Like, I mean, I don't think Solskjaer necessarily, his legacy will be overly negative as the years go by, but definitely it feels that there was this pally nature to the analysis of Solskjaer and how Solskjaer got in, this attachment to nostalgia, this connection to the past that I guess paved the way for Solskjaer to come back in. Any of those two names that you mentioned, any of the Sky lads going in, is like, that is just that times 10. At least Solskjaer had some degree of managerial experience that wasn't a complete catastrophe behind him. Now, in fairness, Keane does have that as well, but it was ages ago. I can't believe we're even talking about the possibility of either of those two names being in the mix for Manchester United job. It's just absolutely beyond reason to think that they're in the mix.
They're not in the mix. The whole point is they're absolutely not in the mix for the job, right? Because you need if Pochettino agrees to come, but says, I want to see at the end of the season, which is most likely outcome here, is that actually they do a backdoor deal with somebody like Pochettino. It becomes an open secret that he's the new manager, but Manchester United appoint an interim manager in the meantime. At that stage, you'd have to say the most likely outcome is that Carrick gets it until the end of the year, or they put Fletcher in instead because Carrick...
They got them mixed up.
Whatever. You know, it's possible that like they're like, oh, we said that we were going to get an interim, you're going to be the interim, and we want to give you this experience over the next while, and we feel like Carrick is too closely associated with Solskjaer, and actually we just got beaten by Villarreal. So I'd say a lot hinges on tonight's game, but the most likely outcome is that they do a deal with Pochettino, and Pochettino agrees to come at the end of the season for the point of you're talking about the dilettante nature of it, and actually it would cost too much money, whereas in the summer they probably think they can do a deal for nothing. And maybe Zlatan is lined up already at that point to take over PSG for whatever. So you can see how the end of the season is better for everybody. In that scenario, you get an interim manager where they decide they don't want Fletcher tainted by what happens. They want somebody to come in and make sure that the players don't slack off. The list of candidates is Steve Bruce. This is like Hollywood Squares. It's Steve Bruce. Arsene Wenger came up yesterday. I was suggesting, could Ferguson do it for like 6 months? Could he do it for 6 months? He probably could. You can't give it to Giggsy anymore. He's off the register.
You can invite him to a corporate box.
I mean, it's not a great look, but they're still doing it. You've got Mark Hughes. And what's behind door number 6?
Oh no! How are Manchester United in this position?
Because they don't have a well-oiled football department. In fairness, getting Darren Fletcher in at this age means that in 15, 20 years' time, they're going to have like a slew of people who are involved in football and who know football. And by all accounts, Fletcher's an absolute, like, he is genuinely supposed to be a football genius. So I think that there's room and opportunity there for that football department to grow. But they needed to do that 20 years ago and they didn't, right? Because they had the monoculture where it was ruled by a dictator, and they've tried to replicate that afterwards, and none of the dictators who came afterwards were anywhere near as good as Alex Ferguson. Funnily enough, it turned out he was one of a kind. So, in that scenario, it's not completely ridiculous to think that you could put any of these people in. I would say the safest pair of hands is Hughes, but his football management, not great.
And I mean, I appreciate that you caveated that by saying in this scenario it's not totally unreasonable. But let's just remove that scenario. In reality, that is a ridiculous situation that they've completely generated from themselves.
The alternative was to keep Solskjaer until the end of the season and then get Pochettino.
It's like saying in this scenario where time travel is possible, it's not ridiculous that we end up in the year 1971. Of course, the conditions you've created in that hypothetical are bonkers.
No, it's the opposite of that.
That Roy Keane is a possibility.
This is exactly what they did. This is how badly Man United has been managed. They didn't create a time machine.
I accept, but it is.
They've walked themselves into the scenario where this is actually a real scenario.
What I would say is closer to the truth is another scenario they've created, which was just handing out these contracts last month to the likes of Kieran McKenna, Mike Phelan. Like that was bad business, and they're now going to have to be either paid off or given a new role.
It wasn't bad business because like a month ago they thought that they were sticking with Solskjaer. So if they didn't give them those contracts at that point, Solskjaer would have realised, oh, you're firing me. But then the results might have been bad. It's so badly managed. The football side of the club is so badly managed that scenario that I've outlined to you, it's the alternatives are get Pochettino now.
Yeah.
Get Brendan Rodgers now. Or appoint an interim manager. And your interim managers are Fletcher, it's Michael Carrick, or it's one of that collection of people who will do the job for 6 months knowing they can't get the job. Mm-hmm. And who can do that? For Roy Keane, it will be perfect for his career and his life.
Of course it would. It'd be perfect for Roy Keane. Of course it would.
It'd be like absolutely. It would be dream scenario. You get to go in. He would get to physically manhandle some of those players, and the content will be unbelievable. So whatever the money they lose from not qualifying for the Champions League, they make back in content and revenue from advertising and sponsorship.
It's the Roy Keane and Harry Maguire Roadshow, sponsored by Gazprom. That is how they make their money next year, and I'm here for it.
Zlatan's in the papers. We were supposed to do this later on, but it feels perfect to do it now. Zlatan has been interviewed by Donald McRae. Donald McRae interviews are always excellent, so you gotta read this. It's in the Guardian today. You'll get it free online. Considering the ongoing travails of United, who remain in thrall to the Ferguson years, Zlatan says they talk too much about the past. When I went there, I said, I'm here to focus on the present and to make my own story, but when you have too much, it becomes like a loop. You have to think about the present, or you should go to a hospital and clean your head. Manchester United. Who would be the hospital? Roy Keane is the hospital in this scenario. Is the loop not Michael Carrick? Is Michael Carrick not just Groundhog Day? Zlatan has it. He knows the truth. They talk too much about the past. Now, Roy Keane's obviously the past, but he's also, in this instance, a hospital.
All I can see is that scene in The Dark Knight when your man, the Two-Face, who's about to become Two-Face, is sitting in the bed, and there's a nurse, and the nurse turns around to slowly reveal himself to be Joker. It's Harry Maguire sitting in the bed, and in his PPE is Roy Keane slowly turning around, and it's a very, very grim realisation that his career is over. This is...
Or rescued. Or rescued.
You
know,
yeah. Roy Keane blows up the hospital on his way out. That it's exactly how it goes. And you know what? It will be dramatic, as you say.
What if Roy Keane's message only works with good quality players? Man United, we all keep saying they've got good quality players. That squad's too good to blah 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 blah. Be good to see it, but maybe they respond to him in a way that Ipswich couldn't.
Look, I mean, Roy Keane will only ever work again as manager in a short, sharp burst, probably. This will be a short, sharp burst till the end of the season. I'm going to entertain you here. Let's go along with this. Then you know what? It's a great idea. From a neutral standpoint, from a media standpoint, it's an absolutely fantastic idea. An absolutely fantastic idea.
From a neutral standpoint, therefore, it is also a fantastic idea.
Exactly. From a Manchester United, the only ones who stand to lose for Manchester United appointing Roy Keane as manager are Manchester United. So
do they stand to lose that much? Could he be any worse than Carrick? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Carrick says he thinks he's got a slightly different personality from Solskjaer. I'm not sure we've seen it. I'd say they seem very, very similar in terms of temperament. They both seem like lovely men.
What you want from a new manager is will there be an urge within the dressing room to try and impress this new guy? Are you going to get that from Michael Carrick over the next little while? Probably not. Then again, maybe he's just a better manager than Solskjaer. That's
Maybe,
another thing that we don't know, and maybe that will actually be the reason why
It's
things will
unlikely
get
he could
better.
be any worse. Solskjaer was like the very like minimum level. Daniel Harris said Neil Warnock couldn't do any worse than the situation at the moment. I mean, and that's true. It feels that way.
I see. I didn't listen to yesterday's show, and it just seems that I missed like the greatest list of candidates produced of all time. Like I really really wish I was in yesterday.
King Arthur USA says Poch will never win with United. He was a failure with Spurs, and Leicester won the league that season when Spurs blew up. Give it to Rooney. So we did talk about Rooney as well. Rooney did a great post-match interview after they'd just beaten Bournemouth to get to 0 points, having been deducted 18. And he in fairness had done his media training. His practice line was, I'm going to be at Derby. We've got a really, great bunch of players. Really fought today, and I'm going to be here until I'm told otherwise. And then immediately afterwards, Sky cut to Wayne Rooney would find it very difficult. A reporter saying Wayne Rooney would find it very difficult to turn down the interim Man United job if they offered it to him.
Yeah.
So obviously, someone within the camp was like amazing juxtaposition. And of course Wayne Rooney, because it would be like getting him out of jail at Derby. It was like, I did a great job at Derby, got back to 0 points, and then I got this job for 6 months, and then I retired. I realised I'm a good pundit. I'm going to have the crack being a pundit, or maybe I'll be a coach. I don't know. Right. Carrick was actually a very polarising player, says Connor, among the fan base for years, and only really became appreciated around 2011, 2012 when his song took off. Nobody ever said he was on Xavi or Iniesta's level. Fergus says Carrick, like Deschamps, wasn't brilliant but necessary. Necessary? I mean, you definitely need a midfielder who's going to get the ball off the defence and pass it back to the defence. Paul says get Cantona in. Let's just throw this season to entertainment if they're hiring someone next season anyway. David May is assistant manager. Get it done, Ed, says Paul. David May's hanging around, all right. Does a Man United podcast, so he'd be available. Right, we haven't even got to Arsenal. We'll get to Arsenal a little bit later on. OTB AM with Gillette, proud sponsors of Movember. Gentlemen, let's mow. Back in a sec.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Arsenal and Irish fans won't want to miss our next Cadbury FC roadshow.
We're going behind the scenes with Arsenal invincible Robert Pires and Gunner star and Ireland captain Keane McCabe. We'll also be joined by former Arsenal S&C coach, Ireland rugby legend Jerry Flannery.
It's all with thanks to Cadbury FC and their club partnerships, granting you behind the scenes access at the Premier League's biggest clubs.
Coming soon to OTB Sports social channels.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, proud supporters of Movember. Gentlemen, let's move.
Right, 8:05 this morning here on OTB AM. Your comments are coming in thick and fast. There's a lot of love for Michael Carrick, the player, and that's fair enough. If you're a Man United fan, he was there on loads of great days. But that's the crack.
Are you sure you're not like misremembering Michael Carrick and the attitude towards him as some sort of borderline ironic, as in like
No.
Iniesta?
No. I definitely had long, boring arguments with Man United fans at the time about how there were some, not many, who would have said that he was the perfect combination of Keane and Scholes, in that he had Keane's energy and he had Scholes' passing, and so therefore, now, it was a small minority, and I don't really want to. I don't want to indulge those people too much, but I had those conversations, and they're constantly like. I remember one guy texted me 4.5 years after we'd last had a conversation after Carrick got man of the match, and they probably beat West Ham 4-0 or something, and the text was, still think Carrick shit. And that was it. Hadn't had any conversation with this person in 4.5 years, but he waited until then, until he was a man of the match after in one game. I was like, I gotcha now.
Yeah, I actually need to go back to a few people who got on to me over the course of the summer for a couple of Solskjaer takes last season. Somebody got into me over the course of the summer being like, you said last year Hasenhüttl is an unquestionably better manager than Solskjaer. Where are you at now with that take? Should get back to him actually and be like, who's still in a job, mate?
I mean, I actually...
When he did beat Hasenhüttl 9-0, let's not forget, but I'm going to forget about that.
You would have seen Hasenhüttl linked with the job at various places as well. I mean, look, we'll see.